Oh yeah. And boom, boom, boom. We're back.
I always do that.
The consistency is key.
I'm a night rider. Every time that I go up past midnight, I swear I get higher.
Just a little
Swear I
bit.
gotta get higher now.
Come on.
I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire, man. I'm a night rider.
All right, and we are back. We are back yet again with another episode of Bookmarks with Bump, the social commentary podcast that I decide to put on based on the Twitter bookmarks that I have stashed away on the shelf. One by one, I pick them up and I put them down. I decide, hey, I haven't read this yet. Let me read it into a microphone and give my take on it immediately based on my expertise in life, being a tradesman, being a personal trainer, being an endurance runner, being somebody who did a complete 180 in life. I think that gives me a little bit of a footing to stand on when it comes to giving a take. Now, my opinions are mine. I form them on my own. I'm not telling you to believe everything that I believe, because then I would just be the news. And that's not really what I get into here, except as of late, I have been. But first things first, Bookmarks with Bump. You can find me on Twitter at BumpyBetSlips or hit me in the Gmail at bookmarkswbump@gmail.com for any questions or inquiries, or if you decide you have a thread that you might want to hear me talk about. Before I dive into today's episode, I just have to relish in the moment. I've been a traveling man as of late. It's nice to touch back down in my humble abode of Torrington, Connecticut after another great trip. This time, I have my beautiful, lovely, wonderful girlfriend to thank for deciding, hey, this weekend, I want to take you somewhere maybe you've never been. I want to surprise you. I want to show you how much I love you with this display of a getaway. And it was awesome. It wasn't just awesome because of where we went. It was awesome to share that time, share those moments together. Really just break off from everything that we got going on with our busy lives and just decide to spend the time with one another. She decided to book a stay in a beautiful little inn in the middle of the city of Newport, Rhode Island. A place that I had never been before, and a place that I hope to go back to soon. There's still so much to see and so much to do in Newport. We get in late Friday night. We check into our inn. We get shown around the little house there. We stayed in a Murray room, and Mrs. Murray was one of the first judges appointed in the courthouse of Newport, Rhode Island. So that was a very nice little display of history that we got to just marinate in. From the inn, we went down to the marketplace in the harbor, and we found a nice place to eat. We go in. They didn't really have reservations until 9:45. We walk in there around 9 p.m. We go, hey, do you have a spot for two? And where do they put us? Right there on the dock. We have dinner right there on the water. What more could you ask for? You want to talk about romance. You want to talk about a view. You want to talk about the landscape. You want to talk about the food. What is it that you want to talk about? It doesn't really matter what you want to talk about. It's about what I want to talk about right now. So we enjoy this great meal. We have a lot of laughs together. We have a great time. And then we decide to walk around the harbor a little bit before we head back to the hotel. Saturday morning, now I am in the midst of training for the Torrington Road Race. It's a 5-mile road race through the inner workings of the downtown and the west side of Torrington. It's usually ran on a very hot day. I wake up early Saturday morning to get my 6-mile run in. That's what I had on the training schedule, so that's what I'll do. Because no matter what you're up against, you just got to keep on pushing. And that's what I did. So I woke up, I went for my 6-mile run. I decided that I'm going to go, instead of going down through the harbor and the busy streets, I'm going to go the opposite way. See, where we were in Newport, about a half a mile to the west of us was the harbor, and a half mile east were the beaches. So I ran down past the first beach, and then all the way to the second beach, turned around and ran right back. What a run. I mean, the views were just so encapsulating that it didn't even feel like I was out there for almost an hour. It felt like time was going by so much quicker, and maybe that's because of the euphoria I was in the moment. But Nonetheless, I get back, and my beautiful darling is still asleep in bed. I woke up very early because she said we needed to get up early for Saturday morning. She had a plan for us. So I get in, I take my little shower, rinse off after a run, and I wake up my love, and she goes, "We're going for a walk." I said, "Great, these legs need work." We head down towards the first beach, we end up parking there, and then we walk up to the cliffs. We go on the cliff walk, which is, you're flanked on one side by the ocean and on the other side by the Salve Regine University, as well as the Breakers Mansion, as well as other mansions that just reside on this cliffside in Newport. I mean, I can't imagine a more beautiful place to end up living. These places were palaces in the middle of New England. I had never been there before, so I didn't know what to expect. And everything that I saw just blew me away. Like, these are just signs of opulence. These are just signs of a massive amount of wealth. And I was taken away. I was taken aback by everything. I was so blown away by the surprise that she decided to put on for me. I was so blown away by the gesture of, let me do this for you. And nobody's ever done anything like that for me before. And it just made me feel so special. And it made every moment that we were out there so special. I talk a lot about just embracing the feeling when you're in it. And I can't help but embrace how much this wonderful woman decides that she's going to show me how she loves me. I'm very blessed and grateful for everything that she's done for me thus far. After the cliff walk, we get back, we get ready, we have to check out of our I can't call it a hotel. I mean, it was an inn. This was somebody's house at one point that they just turned over into this beautiful bed and breakfast. So we get ready to check out and everything, and they tell us, "Hey, parking around the city's a little bit crazy. You guys can stay parked here." And we took advantage of that. We went back down to the marketplace. We found another place to get lunch right there on the water. Boom, what do you know? Another seat right on the ocean. I mean, how lucky are we? We're just two lucky ducks sitting on Silly Goose Pond, and I can't help but really feel elated about the way everything panned out. We had plenty of lobster, plenty of Newport fudge from the fudgery. We ended up getting smoothies after we tried these hot sauces at the Pepper Palace. We walked around, she did some shopping, got some beautiful dresses, but any dress that she puts on is beautiful, I can't lie, she's absolutely stunning. After our lunch and our little shopping soiree, we head over to what she had planned for us. Yet again, another plan by my beautiful babe. She got us tickets to take a tour of the Breakers Mansion. The Breakers Mansion was a summer estate owned by the Vanderbilts. It was erected in between 1893 and 1895. And, I mean, you walk through here and you can't help but think of the Great Gatsby-esque parties that were thrown inside of this palace. That's the only thing that I could compare it to. It felt like that I was walking through Buckingham Palace. I have never been in a house this large or seen architecture like this inside of somebody's residence ever in my life. The walls were covered in carvings. The ceilings were painted with French mementos. Everything was a French architectural design. They had a bathtub in this house. Cornelius Vanderbilt's bathtub was one single slab of marble granite that was carved out to become a bathtub. It had two sets of faucets on it, one for salt water, one for fresh water. This is extravagant. So we tour the property, we go through, and then we decide we're going to end our trip on the beach. So what are you doing? Go to the ocean and not visiting the beach. Neither of us had been to the beach yet all summer, and that's something that we needed to check off our list, and we did. I mean, every box that we had left on our summer to-do list, we checked off in this trip, and it was so special to be able to do it with somebody that I love so dearly. I was, and I still am in shock that somebody decided, hey, let's do this together. I'm going to do this for you, and I'm at a loss for words. For once, the guy who has something to say about everything has nothing to say. I was at a loss for words. How could you do this? And not like a, how could you do this? But like a, just blown away. How? I must be doing something right. this is the fruits of my labor paying off. All the hard work that I put into myself over the last 6 or 7 years really paying off, and God is giving me a great blessing by giving me a wonderful partner to be able to enjoy all these things with. And I can't help but say thank you. I know she's listening, so I'm just going to say thank you. Here, again, I've been overly thankful to the point where I don't know where I'm going with this, but nonetheless, everything about the trip was beautiful. Everything about the trip was great. Everything about the trip was amazing. Even losing at mini golf, the last ditch effort that I decided to provide to this trip was, okay, there's Newport mini golf, let's go hit it. We are on tour right now, Jacqueline and I. We are in a heated battle. Heading into this match, she was up 3-0. I'm not saying that I'm throwing games to give her any hope of false confidence, because I'm not. She's just that damn good at everything she does. So we go out there, first hole in one for her. I mean, what is there that she can't do? We go on through the first front 9. I take a lead of 4 strokes, and she comes back and she wins in the last 9 holes. So kudos for winning. That is not a thing that spoiled my trip at all. That was still enjoyable. I love her competitive nature and her drive. However, there was one downside to the whole trip, and this is going to be like the first topics, I guess, that I'll be getting into, because it's just too hard to ignore at this point. This is very, very prominent and important news. I had some time on Saturday to scroll through Twitter a little bit, and the first thing that pops up in my algorithm, which is really batting 100 for me right now, and it's kind of throwing me for a loop. But the first thing I get on Saturday is a Joe Biden tweet from Thursday. So yes, we are going to dive back into politics here. Things that are going on in the political world are just way too important to ignore right now. Last week I spoke all about the Trump assassination attempt. Everything that's come out since then kind of just shows, hey, this is a little bit fishy, as I was alluding to in the prior episode. I hate to harp on it, but at the same time I really don't. Because when you hear about politics, all you get is opinions and not information or news. Okay, this is where we are right now in the world. This is how the media operates. They're trying to, in my opinion, brainwash people into feeling certain ways, telling you what to believe, telling you what to think, telling you what's real, and not providing any information at all. Providing a lot of misinformation, in fact. And that's funny, because a lot of what I'm going to bring up right here in this first segment is the hypocrisy of democracy, as I like to call it. We hear a lot about misinformation. Okay, this person's lying about that. This person's exaggerating the truth. This person is not telling the truth at all. This person is taking facts and conflating them. This person doesn't have any facts. They're just saying things that makes them sound great. What I saw on Saturday was Joe Biden tweeting at this point. And it's not him tweeting. It's got to be some type of social media expert intern. I know they have social media degrees now in universities. I'm sure this is somebody who graduated with a social media degree and said, hey, can I work for the presidential office? And they said, yeah, you got a degree. Come on in. So, Thursday night he tweets out, I'm stuck at home with COVID, so I had the distinct misfortune of watching Donald Trump's speech to the RNC. What the hell was he talking about? I'm just going to get into this first tweet here, because this is really the part of the thread that fired me up. These people are pointing fingers at each other, saying this person's a liar, that person's a liar. The first tweet in the thread, and the whole thread will be linked here, so feel free to go through it and pick out what you like or don't like about what this campaign was doing at the time. Because to me, this was a campaign tactic. This was a presidential campaign ad run on the internet, basically designed for people who are misinformed or not informed at all about the current culture or things that are going on. So back in 2020, we had this little thing going on called the COVID pandemic, and at that time, Donald Trump may have made a gaffe by asking a very silly question. Now, I understand where he's coming from with asking the question, but I also understand why it would be a good idea to not ask the question at all, because this guy should know by now that anything that he says they're going to take, spin it, make it sound however they want it to sound, and make him look like an asshole. The thread starts with, let's start with this. Donald said he did a great job with COVID. Folks, this is the same guy who told us to inject bleach while over 1 million Americans died. Now, I remember when this happened, and I remember what he said at the time, while he was our president. He never said to inject bleach. He never told the American people how to fight COVID. He never suggested treatments to the American people. This is just a complete and flat-out use of misinformation to make the opponent look like an idiot and make himself look great. I mean, he's campaigning. He's got to make himself look great. However, doing it the right way is always going to make a longer lasting and more important impact. The impact that saying things like this makes is that you are just an idiot. Like, when I read that, I thought, how could I take anything this guy says seriously if this is the type of credit he's going to give his opponent? You look back to the Mitt Romney and Obama battles, they weren't battles at all. Nowadays, the presidential debates are like roast battles. They're trying to make each other look like asshats or clowns or call each other names, and whoever gets the loudest pop is the winner. That's not how it works. You know, what are you going to do for the American people? What are you going to do to change your policy? What are you going to do to help everyday life get just a little bit better for us? So at the time, Donald Trump said, well, if bleach kills the coronavirus, why can't we develop something that's like a bleach that humans can take? Now, he asked a very silly question, but now that's being used as a talking point. Now that's being used to call out how much of an idiot he is, and that's just sad. That's a sad way to campaign. It's disingenuous. Now, to me, that was a campaign tactic. Then a few days later, out of nowhere, after saying he wouldn't drop out, Joe Biden releases a letter on Twitter. My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors, and in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. We've provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances, passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African American woman in the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic American crisis since the Great Depression. We've protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in my best interest and in the best interest of the party and the country for me to stand down and focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all of those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have, that there is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America. Signed, Joseph R. Biden, with an underline underneath the signature, and no presidential seal on the letter. Why do I point those things out? They seem strange to me. All of this seems very, very strange to me. While being diagnosed with COVID, Joe Biden went into a bit of a quarantine and hadn't been heard from since an event that was planned in Las Vegas. Now here we sit, a few days later. Kamala Harris is being endorsed by many, many Democratic Party elites as the soon-to-be nominee. Now, we won't know until August 19th, August 22nd, who the actual nominee is going to be. I find it interesting how he mentions in this letter how much they've done to preserve democracy. How have you preserved democracy? By foregoing a primary for the American people. You're going to install a figurehead into the Democratic Party that the people didn't elect. That's not democracy. Perhaps it is democracy. Maybe it's not a republic, which is what this nation is supposed to be. A constitutional republic where the landowners decide who's going to be what. But do we even really own our land, or do the banks own it, despite how many mortgage payments we pay off? This is a very interesting time in American history. I look forward to looking back 20 years and seeing what is all said about this. I'm saying right now, what I'm sure people have said for dozens and dozens of years, we are living in the craziest time in history. And with everything being so widely available, the fishiness of things just really jumps out. Between the assassination last week and now this, what the hell is going on? No letterhead on this really strikes me as strange. Why isn't there a presidential seal? Where did he print this from? Why is he dropping out? What made this decision happen? Who made this decision happen? Is it because of what happened at the debate? I can't say necessarily that he got dog walked out there, but he didn't look great. Like, he didn't look to be in great health. That doesn't strike me as a strong leader. Somebody who can barely form sentences. Yeah, he speaks with a lot of facts and statistics, but how much of that is he really holding on to? How much preparation is going into things like this for him? How seamless are these conversations and these decisions coming out for our president right now? The interesting fallout from this is that the White House staff didn't find out until this was released on X. He was helped with writing the letter. His schedule for the next week was wiped out, including a meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, who is putting on a hellacious war in the Middle East between Israel and Palestine. His brother Frank is even saying this may be due to some type of medical problem, so if it's a real medical problem that's stopping him from running for re-election, what's stopping him from resigning altogether? This kind of just really helps the American people buy in more to the fact that there is a deep state running things. And still, here we are. This letter came out on Sunday. Here we are on Tuesday, and there has been no sign physically of Joe Biden. He made a phone call into Kamala Harris's press conference last night that, once again, like, you could call me a skeptic, call me whatever you want, but I'm always going to call a spade a spade. It did not even sound like him. His voice was considerably deeper over the phone than it is through any other form of media. And why was it a phone call and not a Zoom or a FaceTime? I mean, we're in 2024 and we're dealing with the government. You think we have great technology. I could, if I had a video component to this podcast, I could pull in somebody from California to sit down and do a podcast with. How come he couldn't get on Zoom and do a face-to-face with the nation? The American people, if we're really having so much faith in Joe Biden, why isn't he showing face to us? Why isn't he being the leader for us that we need? Just a couple obvious questions, honestly. I mean, it's very, very, very strange. But the biggest piece of this that really throws me and should throw everybody for a loop is that the whole narrative for the last 4 years of the other side being a threat to democracy, they overthrew our democracy right in front of our face. They gaslit us for 4 years and decided, hey, we're going to do whatever we want when election time comes. And now we have 9 states where the ballots are already finalized. You can't change the Democratic nominee on those ballots. So what happens there? How are they going to win this? So funny again to just say when we do things together, we do them the right way. We are the United States of America. But this creates division. Everything they've done for the last 4 years has created division. Speaking of MAGA Republicans, deciding that the term MAGA Republicans was a good thing to call people, really ostracizing people, the same way that Hillary Clinton did in 2016 by calling Trump supporters deplorables. Like, these are the American people. Whether you like them or not, they're part of your team. I don't believe in parties. I don't believe in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. I believe in one party, and that's the American Party. And what they did by running the convention the way they did for this election cycle, they threw away a great hope. If it truly is what they want us to believe it is, why did they push RFK Jr. out, who right now is swinging a very hot bat, coming back from a little slump? He disappointed people when he had a phone call with Trump after the shooting, and he decided it would be a good idea to leak that phone call where Donald Trump is asking him if he wants to be a part of his cabinet. You know, maybe there's something that he could do with vaccines. You shouldn't really release recordings of conversations with people. You shouldn't do that against their will. You shouldn't do that without them knowing. But you definitely shouldn't do that if it's a presidential candidate looking to give you a job. RFK may have just screwed himself out of the job. But this may be the reason why I like him the most. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what bridges he burns, as long as he's building bridges for the American people. RFK went on to say that the DNC is a cabal choosing new candidate, the same way the Soviet Union did. After Biden dropped out, he held a press conference that same evening. A very small press conference because he doesn't get the media push that he deserves. He held a press conference outside of his house in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. A small local news station showed up. The Associated Press showed up. They also decided that they were going to leave once he started bashing the biased media. And they had hot mics so you could hear them saying, hey, let's wrap it up after this, really showing their hand. But he goes on to say that the DNC choosing their new candidate is very cabal-like. And if they don't open up the process, it's really going to discredit the political party. We need political parties that are actually attached to the American people, that are serving the interests of our republic. If the Democrats do what I suspect they're going to do, which is to anoint Kamala Harris, a vice president who monumentally unpopular within her own party, they're doing it because it's the easiest way to hold on to the money. The money in which Kamala Harris raised $81 million in 24 hours. Don't ask me how, don't ask me who's donating, but if you follow that paper trail to where it really belongs and not the Act Blue program that they have that, you know, splits big donations up to $3,500 donations per person. He goes on to say that Russia has elections, but Vladimir Putin wins with 88% of the vote because he controls who can be his opponents, and he controls the media. The same is true now of our political parties in this country. And it is true, because they did it in 2016 with Bernie Sanders. In 2020, there was like no opposition. They just had Joe Biden, and they threw him out there, and everybody was in agreement. It baffles me. So yeah, Kamala Harris raises $81 million. RFK slams in to Kamala Harris, saying that she's a war hawk and a product of the corporate control of our democracy. She has one of the worst civil rights records of any public official, and she's not going to do anything about the national deficit. She never spoke about the chronic disease epidemic, and she's one of the primary authors of the school-to-prison pipeline. Despite a Supreme Court order that she releases 5,000 prisoners of nonviolent drug crimes, she kept them in there, saying that we needed them for firefighting and for other public work services. That's just a modern version of indentured servitude, a modern version of slavery. In terms of the traditional democratic principles, I don't think she has a credible record. And I agree with him. She's said so many very just strange things about the young people of our nation. 18 to 24-year-olds are stupid. They all make bad decisions. Which, I mean, hey, generally that's true. When I was 18 to 24, I was full of bad decision making. However, we all have a chance to turn it around. And if you look at me now, I'm the proof that is the pudding as well. He also went on to talk about Donald Trump and his appointments of the Secretary of Treasury, which will, if Trump wins, be the CEO of BlackRock, one of those 3-4 companies that owns everything. So how deep is he in? It's all just very fishy. And I wish the best for RFK. He has a great platform that he speaks on. You know, he wants more freedom for the people of this country. He wants young people to be able to afford housing. He wants to make the American dream feasible and possible. And he's not pushed by these agendas. He's not pushed by these lobbies. He is his own man. And I think when we look for a president, that's what we need. We don't need somebody who's corrupted or tainted by corporation. We need somebody who wants the best for the American people, who speaks about the republic, who speaks about the liberties that we deserve. Not just a powerful figure that's going to garner attention, somebody who's going to garner attention and do something about it. But that's enough about politics for now. Just very interesting things popping up. Very hard to avoid, so I'm not going to avoid them. Nothing is off topic here on Bookmarks with Bump. And if that politics talk left a bad taste in your mouth, let me help you with some nutrition cheat codes. Dan Go, Fit Founder, has a thread where he decided to reveal nutrition cheat codes he knows now at 44 that he wished he knew at 24. And right now I will go through all of them. Number 1, severely limit alcohol consumption. It's empty calories, bad for your health, increases stress and anxiety, and up-levels your appetite, making you want to eat more. 2, stop eating at least 3 to 5 hours before sleeping to improve the quality of your sleep and aid in digestion. 3, don't eat until you feel stuffed. Eat until you're at a fullness level of 8 out of 10. 4, put your body on a regular schedule of eating. This helps you train your hunger. 5, chew your food slowly until it becomes liquid. This helps you become fuller and save energy used for digestion. 6, think of eating as a ratio instead of an event. A good ratio is 80% of your calories from whole unprocessed sources and 20% from whatever you want. 7, drink a glass of water before and after your meals to feel fuller and more satisfied. 8, don't drink water with a meal because this causes you to eat faster. 9, need to lower your LDL cholesterol, but don't like the idea of taking statins? Take psyllium husk. It's been shown to reduce LDL cholesterol by up to 25%. 10, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar before a meal can contribute to improved blood glucose control. Insulin resistance. 11, if you sit at a desk for work, eat low carb during the day to maximize energy and focus. 12, drink a protein shake before a meal to decrease hunger and increase fullness while giving you some extra muscle-building protein. 13, stop distracting yourself when eating. This makes you ignore your signals for satiety and digestion. 14, time your carbs for energy and performance. This is either the day before a big workout, event, or a piece of fruit before you exercise. 15, keep some raw veggies around you just in case you need a snack. If you need to eat raw veggies, it's probably a sign you're hungry. 16, drink sparkling water throughout the day. It keeps you hydrated while also reducing hunger and sugar cravings. 17, use smaller plates when eating meals. People who eat from smaller dishes have reported greater satiety, and as a result, lower caloric intake. 18, chew gum after meals. Doing this can boost satiety and help reduce snacking and cravings in the afternoon. 19, start your day with a shake with protein, creatine, and psyllium husk to help build muscle, regulate hunger, and have steady energy levels. And 20, take a walk with your family after a meal to improve digestion and have a ritual together. Out of all these, I think 20 is the most important because you're providing good habits for the rest of the people around you. And the crowd you're in is going to be very indicative of who you become. So if you have a crowd of good quality people around you who are doing the right thing, keeping you accountable, it's going to help you reach any goal that you decide you want. You're going to have a built-in support group. They see the good habits you form and they follow suit, right? So it's important to have that support group. He talks about psyllium husk twice in here, and it's a great way to avoid needing a medication. Sometimes medications just become this cycle that are unavoidable at times. You get on one and then you become dependent on it. So by finding a natural resource to use, like our ancestors used to do, you avoid that big pharma ball and chain that can be attached to you. That makes you think it's impossible to get where you need to go without the aid of something outside of nature. Sitting at a desk for work and eating low carb is a great way to save energy. The more carbs you take in, the more insulin your body releases, and that wipes you of your energy, needing to digest food. Digesting your food is an energy-consuming task, and that's why sometimes after you get that big sugar rush, you feel that crash. A lot of great tips in here. Some of them I'm going to take, especially the one where he says, use smaller plates when eating meals. People who eat from smaller dishes have reported greater satiety, and as a result, lower caloric intake. That's like a little mind trick that you can play on yourself. And it's important to kind of train your mind for whatever it is that you're trying to get through. Oftentimes in life, like, we are very dependent on our thinking patterns and how we think it's going to dictate what we do. So if you have this meal and you fill up this little plate with a regular sized portion, you're going to think, oh, I just had a great big meal because I cleared my whole dish. I love the idea of that. I love the idea of playing tricks on your mind and using your brain as a beneficial aid in things in life. Our minds they are the most powerful muscle in our body. They control every way that we move. They control everything that we do. Our central nervous system is dependent on the way that our brain functions, and that's going to tell us what we're capable of. Which leads me to another bookmark I had from who's becoming a friend of the podcast, basically, because it's almost like we have an excerpt from him every single day, the Tyler Bruno account. This one was titled A Powerful Mind. He goes on to say, it may sound cliche, but your mind is so powerful, really powerful. In fact, so powerful that we often overlook it. Your mind is the single greatest force in shaping your reality. That's the truth. We often underestimate the influence of our thoughts and treat them as mere background noise. In reality, the sheer force behind them is profound. Every action, every decision, every breakthrough starts with a thought. Your mind is constantly processing, analyzing, and influencing your world. It's not just along for the ride. It's in the driver's seat. Understanding this is a huge unlock. It's how you can harness your true potential. Realize this now, not later. Your mind has the ability to reframe any situation, to find opportunity in the face of adversity, to find solutions to any problem. The power of your mind isn't just about positive thinking. That's huge. It's about recognizing that your mind shapes your thoughts, which in turn shape your actions. Meaning these patterns shape your life. Want to change your life? Change your thoughts. It sometimes is scary and incomprehensible to think about how influential your mind can be. If you think that you're sick, you suddenly become ill. If you think that life is amazing, you suddenly become happier. It's super simple. Your thoughts shape your whole life. That's why harnessing your mind is so important. Once you harness it, everything falls into place. Your mind is responsible for so much. Take control of it. Recognize the immense power you hold within your own head. It's make or break. It's not just a passive observer, but a force in your personal universe. Use it wisely. Feed it with knowledge. Challenge it with new experiences. And believe in its capacity to shape you. At the end of the day, there's nothing more important than your mind. And that is absolutely true. And that's what kept me on a good path as I was scrolling through Twitter and saw something that might have bumped me off course if I wasn't very sound of mind. Our minds are our biggest ally. They can also be the biggest weapon formed against you. If you find yourself dipping into a pattern of stinking thinking where you're putting yourself down, you have to remind yourself of why you are who you are, what it is that you're working on. And when it comes to reaching goals, your mind is the thing that's going to get you there. You're going to run into walls sometimes where it's like, oh, I can't get this rep. I can't run this last quarter of a mile. Break it down. What is it really? The functional movement of engaging your muscles throughout the repetitions of an exercise? Or how about you're out for a 6-mile run and you got 1/4 mile of a run left? You're going to give up after you did that, 20 times already? Oftentimes we think so big picture, and when we look at everything from the outside scope, We don't see all the work that we put into every little thing that we do. That's one great way to trick your mind. Don't look at the things that you need to do as just the task. Dissect them and conquer them. Divide and conquer is a real thing. Okay? I don't like to think that that's what's going on politically. I like to think that that's what we can do as people for ourselves. My mind is what keeps me in the clouds when I'm dealing with the existential crisis that is life in America, right? It's ultimately it's not that bad. And I can convince myself of that. And it's not just me, it's also my faith, and it's also, being touched. I was saved, and if I was saved for a reason. There's a purpose for me here. So I remind myself of that. Yeah, on Saturday, I see this governmental crap, and instead of focusing on that and harping on that, I put down my phone, I look up and realize I'm spending time with the person I want to spend time with the most, and she decided to take me away so we could have time alone together. And that'll whip you right back out of it. That'll make you say, hey, life is amazing. Because it is. Life is literally what you make it. No matter what you're going through, life is always going to be what you make it. So use your mind to make it something that you want it to be. Use your mind to remind yourself of how great life can be. And if you really need something to remind yourself of how great life can be, remind yourself of this. I found a daily mantra that I bookmarked. And I decided, let's read this out loud together. And this is how I'll sign off on the podcast after all this tumultuous stuff going on in the world. This is how we're going to end it. Because this is what matters. You control what you can control. Everything outside of that bubble, it's not always going to be irrelevant to you, but it should. It shouldn't be what you focus on the most. What you focus on the most is what you can do for your own life. What you can do for your skills. How you can hone in on your craft and become a master at it. That's what we should be focusing on. Because we're never going to be able to look at the big picture and paint it with broad strokes. But what we can do is be the best piece of the puzzle that we can be. So for the next week, we're going to repeat this daily until we start to remind ourselves of it every day. And it becomes this new mind trick that we play on ourselves to show us that life is great and we can be great too. Repeat daily. I will remain focused on my goals. Even if I have a moment of difficulty, I will not give up. I know success comes with consistency. I know that I will make it. Things will get better. No problem or challenge will stop me. Everything I deserve is coming my way. That's great. Because in this mantra, it's not just telling you you're going to get what you want just by thinking of it. You have to earn it. Everything you deserve is everything that you earn. So what are you going to get up and decide to earn today? That's our challenge for the week. And on that note, I got to sign off there. What more can I say than that? We're going to earn what we deserve. So get out there and go to work. Whatever it is that you're doing. Whether you're working through an apprenticeship, whether you're out there on the trade right now, whether you're working on a project that you just haven't completed yet, no matter what it is, whether it's a book that you haven't finished, whether it's a new workout that you haven't conquered, or if you're out there training for a race just like me, everything you deserve is coming your way. So get out there and earn it. This has been another episode of Bookmarks with Bump. I love you all. God bless. And I'll see you next week.